I can just see from the point of view of having been lucky that the film was really well received and well pushed, I can see what the result and the outcome was from it, which is a real buzz in the US that helped after, I think for sure, the distribution in other countries.
That why do you care so much about it? Why do Americans care so much about it? And it's interesting because Cannes films that play here do play a role in that. And I'm just curious, do you feel like having had a year where you're just, promoting the movie and yes, looking, did it get too, are we too Oscar obsessed? And Mary, I'm curious to know your thoughts too, because I know you have a lot of thoughts on like how prematurely films are sometimes anointed or shot down, or and I think that at Cannes and at other festivals too.
Oh, me first? Yes, I do think that that's a danger. I mean, I understand that, when we, especially when the American press comes to a festival like this, and it's not just Cannes, it's Toronto, it's Sundance, it's like, you're looking for the films that are going to pop. And so the easy shorthand of saying that a film is going to pop is to say that there's Oscar potential. But I think, and then covering it too, you're always trying to get your coverage to pop too. And so I think declaring, anointing a film, and I'm not saying that some of the films that have been anointed out of Cannes were not Oscar worthy, but I don't think that should be the point. I feel like that's almost the opposite of the point, right? And I do think that, it also can doom those films that don't get that kind of buzz in a way that's unfairly, or at least give them an unnecessary obstacle when they come to the States, because it hasn't been, Variety or THR hasn't said this is like the, definitely going to be an Oscar contention. So I think we in the press should be more careful. And I mean, we do it too. I'm not trying to call out Variety or THR, because we do it too, absolutely. And I have walked out of at least 2 films going, that's going to be an Oscar nominee. I mean, it's like, it's just sort of the way we do things. But I do think we have to be careful and not turn the perception of a festival, especially something like this, into like an Oscar mill. That's not what it is. It's supposed to be a celebration of film, of all sorts of films, Oscar-nominated films. There is a very limited, too limited in my opinion,
yes,
idea of what should, warrant an Oscar nomination. And I think that this is the kind of place where you're supposed to like sort of dispense with that, if anything.
Yeah, I'll just add that, of course, it was all very new for me, so I could have been in touch doing that campaign and feel the kind of obsession for sure of people on that. But because I never expected anything on that film, I mean, not that thing, so I was just enjoying it. I can just see from the point of view of having been lucky that the film was really well received and well pushed, I can see what the result and the outcome was from it, which is a real buzz in the US that helped after, I think for sure, the distribution in other countries. So I just came back from releasing the film, because it really took 1 year, right? Because the American release was in February, I guess, and then the French one was in January. But after that, there was different countries. But I just came back from Korea, where the film was shot, returned to Seoul, last month to release the film, and then to UK in London, in UK 2 weeks ago. And the numbers are very good, and the crowd is really responding very strongly. But for sure, this is the result of all that thing. So again, I was very grateful to be part of it.
So in like 1981, the Britons won the Oscar for Chariots of Fire, and they said the British are coming. So my question is, I went to film school in America, but I'm English, and I came back because I didn't want to work in the studio. So addressing the panel and the talk, I'd really love to ask you, do you think the Asians are coming, is the question that I want to ask. And I mean all diversity in all sidebars of competition. With Parasite, I just taught 25 American students in UK, European cinema, and not one of them had seen a subtitled film. And they were 23 years old. Not one of them. They'd never seen a film with subtitles. So that is my point.
Well, it's interesting, and Mary and I talk a lot about this, and feeling like, in some ways, would you say, Mary, that, and Mary covers television, which I do not, do you think that Netflix, among others, people have adjusted more to subtitles in a way that have become less hostile to subtitles than they would have, than I think television and international television has done more to normalize subtitles in America than than art house films from overseas have. But yeah.
Absolutely. I don't know who your students are. I also teach a college class, and everybody watches subtitles. And I mean, sometimes they watch subtitles when it's English language speaking, which I don't understand unless it's Scottish. But but I think it's I do feel like when I was growing up, there was not a lot of international content. There was no international television. There was very little international film brought to the American, audience, except for in art house theaters. And it was very, you were making a statement if you went to a subtitled film. You were like, it was seen as something like what pointy-headed liberals did, or what people who were trying to impress their first dates did. I mean, it's like very much like a Woody Allen film. Like you're going to take somebody to a subtitled. Now I feel like my own children, my older children who are in their 20s, they watch subtitles all the time, and I really do feel like it is, as much as I'd love to say it's a function of like the increasing internationalization of the film community, I think it's the television community, actually. And I think, as Netflix has many things to answer for, but one of the things that it has done is brought international content, film and television, to American audiences in a way that very much normalizes it. That, very much it's like it's not seen as something, ooh, I'm going to watch a French TV series, so I must be very smart, or like, ooh, And when you ask about, are the Asians coming? Yes, very much so. I mean, Asian television, just like Mexican television, very much, I mean, especially in Los Angeles, where we have, very large communities who were watching that in their own way, on their own, there are different television stations that broadcast that, but it's really bringing, I feel like, communities together and exposing Americans who are not like first generation or immigrants to cultures that otherwise we would never experience. And also, in terms of the art form, American television, American cinema, I mean, there's a wide range, but it is very different from, Italian cinema, French cinema. There are different expectations, there are different voices, there are different, topics that are, key to addressing. And I think that, that's something that, you see at Cannes, which is the expectations that Americans have of certain films are completely upended, and that's one of the wonderful things. But yes, I do think we're seeing a huge internationalization of American content, or content that is, seen by Americans. And I'll just say one more thing, that one of the great things about it is, in the past, the tendency was to remake. We'll do an American remake of an Israeli television series or a French movie or whatever. We'll take the ideas from the international community, because that's the only way Americans will accept it. And I think that is out the window.
Yeah.
And out the window, too, for one reason, that almost all of them, with the exception of possibly Homeland, were just terrible. I mean, it's just like, please do not do this again. But also, I think it's because we are now, it is normalized, and it is something that people don't think twice about. So I think that's a wonderful thing. I couldn't be happier about that.
I have so many thoughts on all of the things we're talking about, and I'll pick up with that. I'm reminded that one of the great films to play at Cannes in recent years is Tony Erdmann Marinade's film from 2016, which should have won the Palme d'Or, but didn't. And there was a lot of time that was going to be a remake. It was going to be, I think, with Kristen Wiig and with Jack Nicholson. And I never want to say never. Not that it couldn't have been a good movie, but you watch Tony Erdmann, you watch Sandra Hüller, who has two pretty great films in competition this year: The Zone of Interest and Anatomy of a Fall. And you think, why would you need to remake this? It is a perfect movie on its own. To your question about the Asians are coming, which is something I think I've heard that exclamation in my head over the past few years. With Parasite especially, but also, even though this movie didn't go as far as in terms of, say, the Academy Awards race, but Drive My Car. I think the success of Drive My Car, I'm a huge fan of that movie, the Japanese film by Ryusuke Hamaguchi, which premiered here at Cannes. I didn't even see it. I wasn't here at Cannes. It was 2021 that year. But for that movie to go and get the critical reception that it did in the U.S. And to actually, be nominated for Best Picture, Best Director, Screenplay, that was huge because and it's interesting, two different studies in kind of Asian success. You have Parasite, which is the more accessible movie, which is, a genre movie in a lot of ways and extremely entertaining. And you have Drive My Car, which is a more, a more hushed and more meditative kind of film. But, and so in a way, the discrepancy between them is still sort of preserved in terms of how well they did, but they both did well and they both had an impact. And to me, it's, I feel like it's put more attention. The attention works both ways. I mean, the international cinema benefits, and it puts the focus back on Cannes. People come to Cannes thinking, "Oh, wow, this is a place where it's not just the kind of ghettoization of like art house cinema, foreign cinema. It's like we don't. This is stuff that actually can connect in theaters or on streaming platforms with an American audience." So that's been. So I come back to the festival with even kind of renewed excitement these days.